Well, our next guest will be paying very close attention to the president today. He's Kevin Book, Managing Director at Clearview Energy Partners, joining me from Washington right now. Kevin, good to have you with us. And I know that you've been reading some of the reports out this morning, the various newspapers about what this plan is. And a lot of the focus is on, is on the area north of Alaska and also off the coast of Virginia. What is most important to remember about these areas in this plan?
Thanks for having me, Betty. The important parts are that in the 2007 to 2012 schedule for leases, both of those areas were opened up by the Bush administration before Congress had actually gone ahead and opened them themselves. Congress did open them, but when the Obama administration came in, they said, we're going to review everything. And what they're coming back with now is a verdict on essentially those two areas, Alaska and Virginia, as well as a discussion of where things could go. And for Virginia, it's probably a delay. We'll see in a few hours. And for Alaska, it looks like it's an indefinite delay, which is negative relative to expectations.
An indefinite delay because of this leasing process, right?
Well, the leasing process is required by law to consider environmental effects of new offshore production. One of the things that's characterized the Obama administration since they took office is they've gone and taken a look again at all of the decisions that were made about onshore or offshore production. They've said, have we considered everything on the environmental effects? In this case, it wasn't their choice. In April of last year, the D.C. Circuit Court said, you guys didn't do enough work on this. Go look again at Alaska waters.
Okay, so then just for us, for those of us who don't watch this day to day, what does that mean then in terms of the timeline for this area, this very key area in Alaska? Are we talking then this is not going to be within the next 5 years that we're actually going to see drilling there?
Well, it could still happen within the next 5 years. The plan they will unveil today will define years 2012 through 2017. But what remains an open question that we can't answer yet is whether or not the environmental work will meet the standards of the court and of the EPA. As it stands right now, it means that it's pushing back production in an area that a lot of companies were focused on. In 2008, they spent almost $3 billion buying leases in areas in Alaska's offshore waters.
Okay, I understand what you're saying then. Okay, then overall, then for the energy industry, this is not the watershed that some have portrayed?
Well, it's funny how you can spin things. It is a liberalization relative to what was happening, which was nothing, but it's less than what could have happened, which was everything. I think, Betty, it has an importance in the discussions here in Washington on energy and climate, which is that if you're going to open something now on top of this discussion, it will seem additive. It'll be more of a sweetener than if you were offering less than everything. So in the very narrow world of politics, this could still end up looking better in the end, depending on what Congress does.
Okay, but then net on our oil supply, what is the impact then, Kevin?
Well, Betty, the near-term effects are essentially zero because we're talking about a 5 to 7 year time frame before we produce any of these leases usually. But the bottom line is that the volumes that we're going to be getting from the OCS mostly still come from the Gulf of Mexico. The eastern seaboard is a substantial prospect, but many years away. Alaska offered sort of a middle ground, an intermediate term, potentially significant resource, and delaying it definitely delays our access to it in the 5 to 10 year time frame.
And Kevin, just quickly in the time that we have, can you single out, though, which companies overall, though, could be impacted the most by this?
Well, as a group, the integrateds, in particular Shell, bought a lot of leases up in the Chukchi Sea in the 2008 sale. If those are imperiled, that could change their plans. Likewise, oilfield services and offshore drillers have a substantial leverage, obviously, to producing in those areas. For the East Coast, it's a lot of seismic work that has never been done using today's technology. So that would be the play for Virginia.
Okay, Kevin, good to have you with us to sort of dissect what we're likely to hear in the next couple of hours. Kevin Book at Clearview Energy Partners.